10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Chapter systems are offline.
Welcome to the Banter Club. Join myself, Mark, along with TY, Jackie, and Mahal as we talk all things sport. We will definitely trash your team, and if you don't like it, we'll definitely tell you your favorite footballer is a tax evader. Join us every week on the Banter Club.
Are we really doing this?
Of course, we are, definitely.
All right, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, wherever you are, welcome to it once again. It is another episode of the Banter Club with myself, TY, aka with Broadway. I never roll alone, though. I'm with Mark. Mark, how you doing, man?
Hey, Cabo Blue. I'm good. How are you guys?
I was expecting a different reply, but it's all good. We've got Bahau in the building. Bahau, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, man, I'm amazing. And we have a guest joining us today. He goes by the name of Yolulwe Qoshe. If you don't know who that is, he is an award-winning sports journalist and he's a freelance writer. If I stand to be corrected, but I think his speciality stands to be rugby and football. But everybody knows him as Yoza. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thank you very much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
No, man, it's absolutely beautiful to have you. So now, as an icebreaker, what we normally do is we have a quiz, just so that you can, break the ice. So who would you like to take on between Mark, Una, and Mohal?
Probably Muhal, because he invited me. So, yeah.
Mohal, are you ready?
Are you sure? Don't you want to change? Are you sure? Sure.
Nah, man, I'm not scared at all. Let's go for it.
Oh, hell.
Oh. Okay, let's go for it. Sarajisa, Joe, you're representing an entire podcast. Please, Mohal, please.
I was trying to run away.
All right, so the rules are very simple. You just shout your name and you say the answer. If you get it wrong, we hand it over to the next guy. It's 5 simple, easy questions about rugby. And just shout your name after you hear the question, and then you can answer the question. Are we all good, gents?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let me start it off nice and easy. First question: what is the name of the Rugby World Cup trophy?
Yoza,
Yoza?
the Webb Ellis Trophy.
Correct. Absolutely correct. How sharp was you?
I'm still here.
Okay, cool stuff. Let's make it a little bit more complex now. Now, the 6 nations comprises of 6 teams, 6 nations. Which are those 6 nations? Yoza.
England, Italy, Wales, France, Scotland, and why is this nation escaping me now? My word. Ireland.
There we go. That is absolutely correct. It happens to be, those 6 nations. All right, question number 3. Where's the next World Cup in 2023 going to be held?
Yoza.
Yo, Mahau, are you still alive? Yoza, go for it, man. What's the answer?
France.
Correct. Once again. Question number 4.
Come on, bro.
Question number 4. Who was the last team to win the female World Cup in 2017? Mohau.
Let me try and guess. Could it be I'll go for New Zealand.
Incorrect. Yoza, want to give it a shout?
England.
Correct.
Oh hell.
Oh. That was a guess. I won't lie.
Okay, the last one. Which tier 1 side have never reached the quarterfinals of a World Cup?
Wow.
Mohau?
Japan.
Incorrect.
Japan
Yoza?
such a- ah, me.
Scotland.
Incorrect. I'm gonna give you a one try
Oh.
each. Mohau, please save that here, Chief.
Mohau, you need
Kenya,
to take
Kenya.
one for the team win.
Kenya.
It's Italy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. I'll give a point to the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Well done.
Yo. Hey. Hey, Raleigh Mark. Yo.
Oh, 4-1 loss.
Oh,
What a
hell.
hell. I think that's the worst
I'm
scoreline
not
we've had so far.
I am always nobody representing the podcast in any game show.
But guys, it's not your choice. Remember, the guest has to choose.
It will tell the guest no how.
No, this is terrible. All right, Mohau, let's kickstart it off, man. You've got the guest. Let's go.
Yep. I mean, Yolulwe, let's talk about the squad that was announced recently, the Springboks squad, and I think we have almost 8 players who have unkept players. What's your take on the new guys who are coming in to represent the country?
I think first and foremost, a lot of those players are players that have been knocking on the door for quite some time, players that the country has been calling for. If you look at a player like Joseph Dweba before he left the country, many were concerned that it could spell him playing for France. So to have him in the squad is a big plus. Apelele Fasi, almost every week, people are calling for him to be a Springbok, So those two, a lot of people would be happy about. Roscoe Speckman as well. He's a player that's performed very well in 15s rugby, so many would say that it's a belated call, but probably the right one. And then you look at players who are more surprises in terms of the public, a player like Yao Benga, and a player like Nicholas Jansson and Rensburg, But other than that, I think those two players also have the qualities that they will bring to the squad. A lot of people asking questions about Yao Pengla. I think he's a very solid player who won't let you down. And I don't know too much about Nicholas. There isn't much about him. Actually, coincidentally, I found out about him on the Thursday just before the squad announcement. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what he can offer as well. So yeah.
I mean, for someone who doesn't know anything about rugby, would ask, or why do we have to change? Why do we have to get new guys? I mean, looking at the previous squad that won the World Cup in 2019, can't we use the same guys that we used during that World Cup? Why do we have to bring in new guys? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think, they're trying to stick to that formula as much as possible, which is commendable, seeing as though there hasn't been any rugby for the Springboks since they won the World Cup in 2019. So if you're looking at the makeup of the squad, Jock Neineba and Rassi are trying to stick to as many squad members of that victorious World Cup winning side. They have had to make a few adjustments because, a lot can happen in a space of almost 2 years. Lots of players will put their hands up and warrant a bit of reward, like the Roscoe Speckmans and the new caps we were speaking about just now, So I think the mission was to keep the squad as similar to that as possible, but also at the same time, the reason for change is just to give hope to players, to tell them, look, we will reward form. And I think most importantly is you're looking at the ages of the players. You're looking at players and their cycles. So when it comes to rugby, it's a cycle game. It's every 4 years. So you work towards the next World Cup, So you look at players and say, how far can they go? And then you look at a player, for instance, like Dwayne Vermeulen, he might not make it to the next World Cup. So you have to have players in the squad that can carry through his role going into the World Cup after this British and Irish Lions tour. So I think that's the main reason. Really.
And we've got Jagnina leading the squad. Do we know anything about him?
Yeah, he's caused a bit of division. I won't lie. His history is is a bit sketchy to say the least in terms of his coaching. So by profession, he's a physio, believe it or not. So he got into coaching because of he's got a very good relationship with Rassie Erasmus. So he used to follow him as his physio with every union he's been to, Western Province, talking the Cheetahs way back,
All
you
right,
know.
now
Anyway, mhm. Did someone say something?
I think we might have lost two other. You can continue.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he's a physio by trade, but then he got into coaching as a backline coach, and that's how he made his name. He was a very solid backline coach. He did a good job with Western Province and the Stormers, and that sort of launched his career. And then his role with Rassie at the World Cup has probably put him in good stead to be the coach. And it's all about continuity. A lot of people are saying Rassie is still the coach, you know. But yeah, it's about continuity, man. And we'll see what he can do. I'm gonna give him a chance.
Can he continue what Rassie has started?
It's hard to say, but I think because they are so in tune, that the chemistry is there. They've been at the same unions, both in South Africa and with Munster and Ireland, so they know what the one thinks. They literally share rugby brain, if that's even possible. But you get the impression that nothing has changed in terms of the thinking in the camp. So it shouldn't be that hard for him to continue that. Maybe he might even want to surprise everybody and put his own image on the team, which might be a bit risky. So we'll have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we might have to wait and see for that one. Now, the Springbok hooker Marks has said that there's no fear of facing the Lions, the British and Irish Lions. Now, as a Springbok fan, should I be stressed? Should I be worried? Should I be scared? What should I be thinking at this point in time?
I think mainly the concerns of a Springbok supporter will come from the fact that the Springboks haven't played, you know, since the World Cup. When you're looking at a lot of every one of those players in the British and Irish Lions side has played Six Nations. Played that they had a tournament in the winter where they invited teams like Fiji as well. So they've played a lot of rugby, had a lot of rugby belt, and that's going to be an advantage, I think, to them. But for South Africa, we've also come in and had our own domestic rugby being played. To our advantage, we've got a lot of overseas-based players who've been playing almost at the same time when the British and Irish Lions players started playing rugby last year. So we've counted that a bit, and in South Africa, our domestic rugby has also played a lot of tournaments. So the chemistry is there. It's all about being ready. Those games against Georgia, the two tests are going to be massive for momentum and just for the guys to get in tune again. So yeah, I don't think we should panic too much as long as we get back to our stride. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think Tua also raised the issue of being worried.
I mean,
certain players. So the question is, are we likely to see them mentally ready? I mean, because I mean, since the World Cup, we had the pandemic, which we are still within it. So are those players mentally ready? I mean, we talk about the likes of Mornestein, who are coming in with more than 50 caps, the likes of Eben Isabeth, and the likes of Don Vermeulen. Are they going to take the leadership and lead those younger players when it comes to the two test matches that we're going to play before the British Irish Lion tour?
Yeah, look, that's a very good question actually. So you can't ignore the effects of that pandemic and what it does mentally. But I think, you know, like you say, those players, very, very experienced campaigners, they've faced many challenges. I mean, obviously, no one has had to deal with a pandemic like this before, you know, so it's new to them as well. That's when you call on that experience. That's when you call on, you know, those calm shoulders that they have. Probably the main reason why a player like Mornestein gets a call ahead of Qoshe, a young player. That sort of tells you how important this tournament is. You know, we're not taking chances, we're not taking any risks. We're going to go with the guys that are tested, you know. So that's a leadership core that you just mentioned there. A lot will be expected from them by Jock and Rassie. And I don't think mentally they'll be in that pandemic space anymore because they've played so much rugby for almost a year now. And I think they'll just be expecting they'll just be chomping at the bit, you know, and wanting to fire again. You know, and those two games, see them, you know, showing what they're capable of.
I don't know, man. I'm a bit nervous, especially after what happened to the Bulls in the Rainbow Cup final. Hey,
Yeah.
that was creaky. And I mean, how much weight does that loss have on us, on the Springboks going into the British and Irish Lions tour? I mean, the Bulls losing by such a margin, it's shocking to everybody, man.
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, you can't read too much into that because none of those players playing for the Bulls are part of the top 4 to 6 players in the country. You might even argue that if the Bulls had Mornay Steyn, Bulin, Trevor Nyakani, the guys with the Springboks right now, then the complexion of the game might have changed. People need to take into context that Benetton had all of their players, you know, while you know, the players from outside, you know, the Bulls who represented South Africa didn't have, you know, crucial players. So that's another aspect. But the core that's been called out by Rassie is is completely different so often. So I think those two can mutually exist. We can still be hopeful.
Okay.
Just coming in there, I just want to find out your opinion. Do you think Sia has enjoyed quite a successful commercial side of things for the last year and a bit? Do you think that's going to be a bit of a distraction when they come up against the Lions in the coming tour? Do you think all that success might be a hindrance to him? You've all seen that all the Springbok players who have appeared on top billing in the past have gone on to just crash their So is Siya Kolisi going down that road in a post-top billing era?
That's a good question, man. Because that, you know, during last year when Sia's form was suffering again, a lot of people pointed to his success off the pitch. But I honestly am not of that impression that it did affect him. I do not think that Sia is going to make adverts while it's time to train, you know. So I think a lot of Sia's problems have been injury based, not the fact that he's been pillar to post. I mean, maybe that will play a slight role, but I don't think it's responsible for any, you know, for all of his loss of form, many might say, in his performances. But I think now he's had a good run of games, you know, for the Sharks. Not necessarily top form, but just getting fitness. So I think that's the first step for Sia. And I think after that, we have to trust the mentality of a player like him. You know, he's captain, he's been to a World Cup stage. He wasn't 100% fit there as well, but he pulled through. So let's hope for more of the same in the series for him.
Yeah, we can definitely hope for that. Now, just to check off a little bit, earlier in the year, Rock Nation announced a partnership with the Sharks, and I mean, Siya Kolisi is signed to Rock Nation. What exactly is that partnership via Rock Nation and the Sharks? Please just balance us there.
Well, the one of the guys that is part of a group called the MVM Holdings, which has acquired a majority stake of the Sharks, you know, is associated with the member of Rock Nation Sports. Yeah, well, so the guy, the associate, he is the man that handed Siya Kolisi a bursary from the township to Grey, where he became, where he got the opportunity to become the player he is. Yeah, well, so that particular relation in itself played a pivotal role to get Siya from the Stormers in Western Province to the Sharks. Now, what's important to note is that the same group wanted to take over the Stormers first, right? But the Stormers rejected that, and then that many people say that upset Sia, and then Sia jumped ship and followed the people from Rock Nation because of his familiarity with them. Yeah, so a lot of what the Rock Nation and Sharks partnership is about is building a brand from the Sharks, not just a rugby team, making them a global brand. Sia, you know all about Sia now. When you're the first Black World Cup winning captain, you're a global figure. So it's all about those images. It's all about, you know, the being a successful partnership as a huge global brand. And that's why a lot of people are concerned about Sia as a rugby player now. like the question I was just asked now, all of these off-field commitments, yeah. So I think basically that's the partnership with the Sharks and Rock Nation. They're trying to become more than just rugby, and see as a huge symbol of that right now.
Hey, it sounds like a whole lot of meddling in the boardroom there. Hey, oh no. I honestly feel like, see, my honest opinion, I feel like Sia's decision was to move to the Sharks was impacted by everything you just said. Now it's a whole lot of boardroom shandises that made him move there. And I mean, doesn't it kind of play into the fact that if you own a sports a franchise, you can't own an agency as well? Because I mean, it kind of does influence the players, like there's a bit of meddling there, wouldn't you say, from the boardroom?
Yeah.
Decision.
Look, let's be honest. It's more than rugby, and there is meddling. There's no way around that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's all about that imagery, But then the way that you spin it at the same time is that Usia won the World Cup, so he's still a player of quality, so you can't ignore him. But then we know that it's beyond that.
Yeah.
The question that you ask is valid. You know what I'm saying? If you know the associate is favorable towards this player, then what happens to me if I'm competing with Usia? Yeah, it's all valid. And to point that out, I was actually going to write an article about the Sharks just signed who's Mbonambi, right? And before I could write that article, funny enough, because I was going to write an article stating that he's moved to the Sharks is more than right? And then 2 days later, I see a post about Mbonambi saying he moved to the Sharks because they want to help him with his outside ventures. So how crazy is that?
Wow.
What you're saying is real, and I could sense that as well. Another quick example. Usibunkosi, he's also signed to Rock Nation. They asked him on fresh ground on Channel O. I just happened to be watching, and they asked him about that deal. And what's important to take from his answer for joining Rock Nation is says that they are willing to support his music industry dreams. Yeah, so you're onto something. All of these deals are boardroom and not necessarily just rugby. But is that the future of sport? Sportsmen, women, more than just players, a brand, and all of that. Maybe they're taking us into a different era altogether. You know what I'm saying? So maybe they're onto something. Maybe we just need to catch up. You never know.
But
yeah, no. Look, I also agree with what you're saying. That I think it's time rugby. I think rugby and to a large extent cricket, they've kind of been stuck in the traditions that they have, and they need to move into a new era whereby these sports players, their personalities, you need to know them beyond just the rugby field, and that's how you make money. Because people fall in love with the player, they don't necessarily fall in love with just the sport, and you also opening yourself up to a wider market of people who love, like, for example, reality TV. I mean, I remember David Beckham when he came out with the funky hairstyles. I mean, that changed football, and I think rugby needs to move in that direction whereby the personalities on the field become so large that they actually are very profitable. But in saying that as well, how do we take South African rugby to the world, or how do we take rugby to make it a global sport? Because right now rugby is predominantly in like less than 10% of the world. So how do we grow rugby? And we're speaking about the Rock Nation deal and so forth, but how do we take rugby and make it a global sporting code, quite like football?
I think a lot of the reasons why rugby is probably associated to certain nations, like you say. If you look at all the other nations that are left out of that, and you're looking at their population and what those countries' main sport is, a lot of their population gravitates towards a certain sport, which in most cases is football. So you need to look at governments within those countries, and how they are able to promote the sport. Now the question is, how does the IRB, which is the governing body of rugby, start to introduce, platforms where kids from grassroots get to experience rugby. Yeah, but what I'm saying is similar to high school. Right? My primary school is connected to the high school that I went to. At primary, I played soccer and rugby. So when I go to the college, which is the high school, the soccer falls away and it's just rugby. The explanation they have is that they don't want too many sports taking away from the talent pool that plays rugby. So maybe it's a similar policy if you go to countries like Brazil who are starting to play rugby and other nations which you associate more with rugby. Having more tier 3 competitions, playing the likes of Germany, Brazil, getting them introduced. Nigeria is playing rugby as well, So I think having more of those tournaments, having more top tier nations like South Africa, New Zealand, England, we need to play our role. We need to visit these countries. We need to do more work within our continent. We need to visit Nigeria. You need to visit Uganda, all of those countries, host clinics, make those people make the youngsters in those countries enthusiastic about the sport. And that's how we can grow it on our side. But I think that question is more towards the IRB and how they want to grow their sport in all the countries. Yeah. So yeah, but it's a tricky one because it involves changing a whole mentality that's historic in countries. Yeah, so not a lot of people would associate Nigeria with rugby. So imagine telling a young kid from Nigeria to put down the soccer ball and try to be a rugby player. You might be asked more than a few questions about that. So how do you change his mentality? I think more clinics and them seeing Springboks doing what they do can help. I think that's my short answer.
Facts, man. But you said you played soccer. How good were you? And which position did you play?
Hey, I was vice captain on my under 13A side, and I played in the midfield. I was on the right of a midfield 3, and I was known for my through balls at the time. Those were pretty trademark. So I would say I was fairly decent. Yeah, I was fairly
I will
decent.
test you. We should have a Banter Club Cup. Everybody that comes here and says they were good at football, you must come through to the Banter Club Cup when we host it.
I might have to catch up on the fitness, but I still back the touch here and there. So we'll see.
We got you. Now talking about development, how is grassroots rugby in South Africa at the moment? How's rugby doing in the development phases right now in South Africa?
I think when it comes to our development, we rely a lot on the schools, which then it's problematic on one side because, for instance, I went to a particular school which is very resourceful, for a young kid who wants to further himself in rugby. It's one of the top schools in the country when it comes to rugby. And then you obviously going to get an advantage as per se when you compare to a guy that goes to a local school in the township. You know what I'm saying? So I think we're relying a lot on historically good schools to develop our players, and that automatically excludes a lot of the players. I got asked a few questions about the Craven Week side from my region, which is the border region in the Eastern Cape, and somebody asked me a good question like, why does this team comprise only of former Model C schools players? What about the kid who wears a yellow T-shirt from a township school? What about his dreams? Are you telling me there's not even one player that's good enough to make that team? So a lot of our development goes according to who's got the better resources. That is how teams are picked. And unfortunately, when you go to a tournament like Craven Week, it does come to fruition the fact that when you put a player from a well-developed school against a guy from a township school, the guys from the well-developed school usually win by big. So we need to find a way to make a development, more inclusive. And I don't know how that's possible because a lot of that goes to schools. You can't build schools overnight. We've seen that with our government. And yeah, the best way our development is now, it's more about which school you went to that would give you the best chance to get into an academy and further your rugby career.
Okay, but now the question I have is like, you look at things like rugby, right? They're busy winning. South Africa's winning the Rugby World Cup. But in football, it's tricky. How do we translate that success from rugby? eh, I'm gonna say cricket because we are up there. We haven't won the World Cup, but we're up there.
Yeah,
But how we
yeah.
take that success to football?
You see, football for me, I think we won't go anywhere until we sort out our administration. That's the first thing. I think
Mm.
the difference between rugby, even cricket,
Yes.
when the turmoil started in the boardroom, it showed with the results. When
Mm.
everything was in unison in the boardroom, the Proteas were number one in every format. You know what I'm saying? We're competitive in every format in every tournament. So I've never heard of too many controversies within the South African rugby board. But when it comes to SAFA, there's always a complaint about Danny Jordan not being competent. There's always this scandal. There's always that, and that's translating to our football. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of and with rugby, a lot of these players that we get that go on to become successful rugby players for the Springboks, they come from the schools that I've just mentioned. Those schools don't. Many of those schools are still not uh, open to the idea of having football compete with rugby. So maybe
Mm.
that's another thing. How does SAFA come on board and tell those schools, we need you guys to come on board and help us? We need those resources of the rugby resources to spill over to soccer. Maybe that can help us in a way. But for me, I still believe that we need a change at the top. Danny Jordan has been there since the 90s. We haven't won anything because he joined just after 96. So we haven't won anything after that. And you have to ask yourself from the moment he joined in 97 to 2021 now,
Mm.
hasn't football changed? You know what I'm saying? Are his methods still relevant now? And I don't think they are because the proof is in the pudding, unfortunately.
And talking about administration, my concern or my question right now will be based on transformation, and I would like us to look at it on both on two sides of this thing, this word transformation. The first one will be black players, and of course the second one will be the transformation. We're looking at different regions or different provinces, because if you look at the Springbok team, you could tell that majority of the players, not even the Springbok team, but majority of the teams which are based in South Africa, most of the players who are succeeding could mostly from Eastern Cape, and you have some players from Limpopo, because at some point in time I remember the Blue Bulls and as well as the Springbok, the first starting from position number 1 to number 8, you could tell almost all of the players, if not all, the half of the players were from Limpopo. So let's talk about the issue of transformation, looking at the transformation of black guys representing the country within the Springbok team, within the region, within the other clubs, talking about the Blue Bulls, talking about the EP, Eastern Province Rugby Union, and the likes of the Sharks, and of course transformation when it comes to having a different province representing the country within the Springbok.
Yeah, making very, very valid points in your questions. I think when you look at transformation, I always look at it in this sense. You get automatic transformation, and then you get active transformation. Now, how I explain that is this: automatic transformation is taking is a kid from the township getting the same opportunities to attend a school that help him be in the same rugby field as Mark and Jonathan, and there's no difference between what resources I use, and I go all the way up the ranks, and we're basically the same. Yeah, bro? Then active transformation is taking a kid from the township, giving him a scholarship so he can join that setup at a later stage. The best example is Usia Golis. Yeah. So when you're looking at the Eastern Cape, the reason why the Eastern Cape has produced a lot of black players who have gone on to represent South Africa or be prominent in our rugby circles goes back to the issue of the schools. The schools in the Eastern Cape, which are held at a high esteem when it comes to rugby, they don't have soccer. So there isn't competition. But when you go to regions like Johannesburg, Gauteng, you've got a variety of sports on offer. So maybe a lot of the talent pool there is split between the sports, and historically the conversation has always been about black players who like to play soccer, and the white guys will go to Iraq, which is not necessarily true, but you understand where people are coming from with that, on a general scale. So I think for me, that is why the Eastern Cape is producing. There is no competition between rugby and soccer and other sporting codes. When you're from the Eastern Cape, I'm from the Eastern Cape, you want to play first team rugby for your school, and the Sharks are always trying to scout from the Eastern Cape. Similarly, what you said was important when you mentioned Limpopo, right? The Bulls, their region in Pretoria doesn't necessarily produce players of color. So what the Bulls do is they go to Limpopo, which is like a partnership they have, and then that's where they get the black players from. The likes of Uchili Lapel is an example. Trevor Nyakane, even though he started at the Cheetahs, but he's from that Limpopo area where he represented the Bulls at provincial level. And that's a tricky one to say because there's lots of soccer teams in Limpopo, so I can't tell how they produce so many black players go on to play right now. But in Eastern Cape, I know for sure that there's no competition. You grow up, you want to play first team rugby, you want to play for the Sharks, you want to be scouted, and that's how it happens. Similarly to Eastern Cape.
I actually wanted to ask you, why are there so many Crossup rugby players instead of any other one with any other tribe? Without sounding tribalistic, you answered it for me without me having to ask. Well,
Now, I mean, still on the issue of transformation, we are yet to see black coaches. Where are they?
Black coaches are there, they're alive. This is the best moment in time for black coaches. I happen to know a few. I happen to interact with a few because I am, fortunate enough to be in the Eastern Cape space, So some of them, there's a coach who, by the name of Upira Nomlomo, was now part of the Sharks setup with the senior side. He has done so much at school level and was scouted first at EP, and then EP fell apart, and then he went back to school, Selborne. He created two phenomenal teams. They proved his acumen as a young black coach, and now he's at the Sharks. You're looking at a coach like Umzwandile Stick, who is the South African assistant coach, if you may, even though they don't give those guys tags, He also paid his dues. The other assistant coach of the Springboks is a person of color as well, color, Dion Davis. So they're there, I interact a lot with Vuyo Zanga, who's a Sevens legend. He's coached at EP, but now he can't get into our system. He has to go and coach and continue winning trophies in Germany and in Russia. It's the coaches are there. It's just a matter of getting those opportunities. Muzwake Nkosi is doing a very good job within the Lions setup, getting his reward for being the SA schools coach and doing so well at Kids as the first team coach. But my take on that is the coaches, there needs to be a pioneer of some sort. I think Muzwanile Stick, he's at the top of that hierarchy at the moment, and as he does well, it will filter down to the guys below, and those guys, as they continue to come up in their particular franchises and unions, then they will change the era of black coaches in Africa. I think we've got enough. Let's just be patient and let's hope that they'll get the opportunity soon. There are plenty.
No, most definitely, man. My question to you is about the Springbok Sevens, and my last question is about the Springbok Sevens and at the Olympics, man. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think that's the one medal that has eluded them. And now the thing with sevens is you're always going through transitions. A lot of players. It's hard being a sevens coach. I can imagine, because you take a player like Roscoe Speckman, he's crucial to the sevens, and then all of a sudden Roscoe Speckman wakes up tomorrow and he says, "Hey, but I can also go for the World Cup, and play 15s, right?" So that's that's what's happened now for the Springbok Sevens. You get it, Roscoe Speckman, you've got Siabelo Sinatla, you've got Verena Koch, you've got all of these players who were pivotal to the Sevens team, all of a sudden saying we want to try 15s rugby at a crucial time. So they are going through a bit of a transition period, but they will come out strong because they've always had those kids who are bubbling under, traveling with these experienced guys. Now it's just a matter of them acclimatizing before getting to the Olympics. My expectations on them at the Olympics, I don't want to place them too high, like because of what I've just said now, the transition period, you know. So we always produce when it comes to sevens. So I'm gonna cling on to that hope and faith, and we'll see how good we go at the Olympics. I think we'll be competitive, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sweet stuff, man.
And yes, I have a question concerning the players who have been banned. Looking at the substance that they've taken, let's talk about the likes of Chile Boy, Ralipele, recently the Apiwe Janchi. What's your take on this issue? Because I mean, from a different view, someone might say that is it an attack on black players to say that maybe if we question the issue of transformation, they might raise the point to say that okay, but we gave you chance, gave players, black players chance to play for the Springbok, but they tested positive on certain substance, the likes of Chile Bora, the likes of Apiwe Janji, because I mean when we hear the Apiwe Janji saying that he didn't take any supplement, but the probably could have been something that he drank and unaware that it has this substance within the drink. So what's your take on this issue of players being banned to play rugby because of the substance that have taken?
Yeah, you see, on this topic, I have to tread a bit carefully because I don't know all of the facts, of course, and they are still being, especially in Apiwe Janchi's case, is still a bit delicate here and there. The verdict, as we know, for now, is still guilty. So that's as much as we know. I think that the cases are isolated. For example, a lot of people look at Chile Boy and say he's had so many offenses, so maybe it is his thing. But in an interview, one of my freelance gigs, that's my main freelance gigs, did with Uchili, I wrote the article as well. He maintains his innocence throughout, you know, and with him, the situation is tricky because they're saying his samples were kept at the lab for tempered. So he has a feeling that they were tempered with because they shouldn't have been at a person's house. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying the cases are always tricky because they are isolated cases. Because people look at Apiwe Janji's case, and a lot of people will say there's no way an athlete doesn't know what he's drinking. You know what I'm saying? You've got so many resources, you've got so many people telling you don't just drink anything because you are this person now. You know, there's so many. For me, I've always said, what is the motive for a person setting up Apiwe Janji? You know, because that has been the narrative. But he was set up, they don't want him to go to the World Cup because it's black, whatever. Because the next person was a black person, which is my pimp, yeah. So I don't want to look at those cases and say there's an attack on black players, but at the same time, I can't confirm that, you know, there isn't. I can't know for sure, but I don't want to look at it in that gaze at the moment. Especially with these two cases, I think they have both have lives of their own, and I'm not too sure they too racially are connected, to be honest with you. There are things that the system can be blamed on and you can question, but with these two cases, I don't want to bring the case of black people, black players in the system are being treated unfairly and being taken out. I don't think these are the cases.
No, I hear you, man. Look, we've got a lawyer listening in right now, so you can just say whatever and then just say allegedly. You'll be fine. Don't stress. Don't stress.
For that advice, man. Hey.
All right, man. Yoza, thank you very much for joining us, bro. It's been a pleasure. You've enlightened me on so much that I didn't know, and I think everybody else listening right now, and even the gents and part of the Banter Club, definitely learned a lot. Thank you very much for joining us, man.
All right, thank you so much, guys, man. I appreciate you even thinking about.
Are we winning against the British Lions?
Hey, I'm gonna say we're gonna take it 2-1. So that's my prediction. I think they will be firing. I think maybe in that first game we might be caught a bit unawares, but I think that will be the spark for the rest of the series, and we might come back and win the next 2 games, and hopefully,
Yeah, no,
it'll be true.
definitely. We're gonna hold you to that prediction. If we lose, we're gonna bring you back up here and be like, Chief, what did you say? All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us, and don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the follow button. We are the Banter Club SA on all platforms, and like our last friend, our favorite friend with glasses, likes to say, tell your grandmother. If you want to send your reactions, the WhatsApp line is 064 9000 947. That's 064 900 947. It's been another beautiful episode educating you on the world of sports. From us at the Banter Club, it's another one. Peace. And we are out.
Join us every week on the Banter Club.